We're diving in. We couldn't figure out how to play music on Zoom. We accept any tips on how to use Zoom from the Googlers. Sorry, not from the Googlers. The Googlers among us don't know how to use Zoom. So if you know how to play music on Zoom, we accept all of your advice.
This is our beta test. Oh.
I think you have to select use system. Your microphone and your speaker have to be same as system, and then you can play music.
All right, Morale-K, I'm going to email you afterwards. I don't even know what to touch on my computer to make that happen. I don't want to mess with it. Thank you for the advice.
Awesome. Okay, I am going to kick it off because I get to be the host today. For those of you that I haven't met, I'm Amanda West. My family and I moved to Boulder 2 years ago. And though I do work at Google, as many of y'all do, we actually didn't come to Boulder because of Google. We came to Boulder because of Boulder, and I got to stay at Google. And I say that because we chose to be part of this community, and I was leaving my home from my whole life, and so it was a big change for me. And in order to make this feel like home, it was really important to me to get involved in the local community. To do that, I did 3 important things. The first thing was I met Natasha Wright, who is the founder of Chai for Charity. Natasha warmly welcomed me to Boulder, and not just me, but our family. And as she does, I think, for almost everyone who's new here. The second thing I did is I was able to join the Techstars Board of Advisors. Techstars is a VC incubator, lots of other things based here in Boulder, but also has a foundation that combines 2 of my passions, which are entrepreneurship and racial justice. And through that, I was introduced to Defy Colorado, which we'll hear about in another one of these happy hours. And Stacy Putka is here. And then the other thing that I did early on 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, is I attended the Boulder Valley School District's Summit on Racial Equity. And there I met 2 important people. One is Katie Borden, whose kids go to Douglas Elementary with my kids, and who started an inclusion group with me at our local elementary school, but also is on the board of Cobalt, which is another organization we'll hear out in another happy hour. But I also got to meet Allison Billings, who runs Impact for Education, and you will hear from her later in just a couple of minutes. But I wanted to just mention before I talk more about Chai, that the reason why I chose these organizations, and Impact for Education in particular, is because we moved here from Berkeley, California, which has an extremely progressive public school system. And it was one of the things that I really missed when we left. And they have extra local taxes. Even though 50% of the kids are on free and reduced lunch, it's an amazing school system. It also has involuntary busing, which creates an equitable environment. Not perfect. There's a lot of, not totally equitable, but at least more so. So there's a lot of learnings from there, and I'm trying to learn kind of what the situation is here in Boulder. And then when COVID hit, I was deeply concerned about the impact of it on, sorry, I'm gonna get emotional, but on kids that just don't have the resources that my kids have and other kids have. And so I didn't know kind of where to turn and what to do, and I still don't exactly, but I know that Impact for Education is addressing this. And so I'm glad to hear what they're doing and the work that they're doing. Okay, I didn't expect that I would get all emotional there, but it is, an emotional time. Finally, Chai. So I was just so excited to just know Natasha as a human, but also get to know about Chai. Chai is an organization that supports and encourages people to get involved in local nonprofits, not just by giving, but volunteering, giving goods, and also volunteering talent. And they focus on local nonprofits, ideally ones that have very low, if no, overhead, as Chai doesn't have. Natasha and Laura have just been devoted volunteers to this this event, but also all the events that they host. Usually these events are in person, and I was planning to host one in June this year, and so I've been nagging Natasha to let me do this thing virtually, and we finally figured out how to do it. So this is an experiment in the virtual model. There's one other that I've got to go to with Shira, my younger kid, who where we got to get the kids all together volunteering and learning about supporting organizations that support folks who are experiencing homelessness. And I'm just so thrilled to have you all here, and I just am so appreciative of you all, but also Natasha and Laura for creating this awesome thing and getting these, all the donations that we got from the amazing companies that supported this. I probably went on too long. The other thing that I just forgot to do that I'm going to ask everyone to try to remember, I wish that I did this in my signature here, but so again, my name is Amanda West, and I want to just say that my pronouns are she and her, and I know not everyone is used to sharing their pronouns, but I hope that you all can do it as you're presenting, but also in the breakouts moving forward. And I'll hand it over to the wonderful Allison, I guess, is next, talking about impact for education. Thanks.
Thanks, Amanda. And I appreciate you having me here. It means a lot. And I also am grateful, Natasha and Chai for Charity, for you guys putting this together. I know how hard it is to do online events. We just did one a month ago. It is a lot of work. So my preferred pronouns are she, her, hers. And I've got about 10 minutes to share some information with you. And I don't want to be the only one speaking. So I'm going to talk fast, which is what I do because I was born and raised on the East Coast. And then I'm going to share a video and let you see some of the folks that we've been helping. But essentially, Impact on Education, we've been around since 1983, so we're almost 40 years old. We exist purely to support students in public schools. And the Boulder Valley School District is 500 square miles, so it's much larger than just the city of Boulder. It spans about half of Boulder County, serves 31,000 students and 4,000 educators. And in normal times, what we do is fund programs and grants and scholarships and all kinds of initiatives that are all around leveling the playing field for students. So our work focuses on building support for public schools, eliminating obstacles and helping students overcome barriers, and then bringing innovation and best practices forward for all students. And so before COVID, like if we had been doing this back in January or February, I would have talked to you about our work in early childhood education and the programs that we do in partnership with Boulder Housing Partners, where we provide education to 3, 4, and 5-year-olds at home and encourage them to register for year-round preschool so that they're more prepared when they arrive for kindergarten. And I would have talked to you about our work on career education and opportunities we were looking at to bring more mentorships and introduce career pathways to more students at a younger age throughout our public schools. I would have talked to you about our work bringing in more diverse classroom instruction. We're really proud of a program a few years ago called At Last, which brought a whole new curriculum to our schools, which is about the history of slavery and talking to high school students. And we started with one really small class at Boulder High School, and now we have multiple classes at multiple high schools, really educating high school students about a part of our history that typical textbooks and mainstream curriculum doesn't always like to touch on. We were, at the start of the year, also really excited about our literacy fund. We were preparing to train a ton of educators and literacy interventionists to support our students with processing disorders like dyslexia. BVSD did not have enough trained personnel to help every kid that needed their help. And we provided a ton of professional development in that arena to change that. We provide school supplies every year. We provide scholarships and fee waivers for everything from students trying to attend field trips or participate in sports or rent musical instruments or take concurrent enrollment classes as high schoolers or take an SAT prep class. Like, we are constantly doing what we can to break down barriers so that public education is truly equitable in our community and more students can access the same thing as their peers, regardless of how much money their parents have. So that is sort of pre-COVID, normal times impact on education, with a strong commitment to education and a commitment to equity in everything that we do. And then COVID hit in March. So I'm going to share my screen and let you guys watch a video. It's about 6 minutes long, but you can get a sense for what we've been up to these past 6 months without having to listen to me talk really fast for 6 straight minutes. So hang on a second, I'll share my screen. And I've got to unplug headphones. But if you guys will give me a thumbs up that you can hear audio, let's make sure that that comes through.
We actually have quite a bit of need within Boulder County, even if people outside might have the image of Boulder being entirely a place of wealth or comfort. Close to a quarter of our families, I would say, are socioeconomically working class or living in poverty. There's been a high level of need always, and I think that was really exacerbated when the COVID crisis struck.
It was really stressful. Actually, like a couple weeks ago, I get like a headache, really strong headache. Then I went to the hospital and they said it was a stroke. I lost my job. Everything closed. The school's closed. So I get a lot of stress.
So yeah, people were scared. They didn't know what was coming. A lot of the people in our school lost their jobs right away. In Pentagon Education came in saying, how can we help? And the district decided that the first thing to do was for sure to keep the food security going.
I think this was one of those act first, think later situations because there was no time to waste and we had to move really fast.
What do our families need beyond learning needs? For me and a few close colleagues, it shifted from its traditional focus to one about survival.
And we're really fortunate to be in a community with a lot of people who care.
Why they need the food. Some week they do, some week they don't. So we don't ask.
Community liaisons like Fabi said, how can I help? She found the families who needed her most, and she has spent this entire time driving in her car to visit families and bring them the essential supplies that they need and make sure that every one of those students knows that their school has not forgotten about them and that their school community is still here for them.
Hola, Beth, ¿cómo estás?
Fue algo muy difícil porque pues no lo esperaba. En ese momento yo acababa de dar cuenta que estaba embarazada casi a 2 meses y luego tener hijos, pues para mí fue bien.
I'm very worried if school's not opening for the physical, emotional, and mental safety of the kids. It's very hard on parents. I'm a mom and I've struggled with my son too for the home learning.
fue difícil porque yo no sabía ni qué enseñarle porque mi idioma es español. Entonces, no sabía ni qué hacer. Pero sí aprendió.
The truth is, we have students and families who come to school with very little and are very, very reliant on the services that they get inside these school buildings. I'm really proud to live in a community where people care enough to donate their time and their talent and bring resources to the table and just say, how can I help?
Impact on Education for years has played this crucial role as an equity champion. They partnered with us in another way, buying several $1,000s worth of books that we then distributed. So to be able to partner with Impact on Education and have their funds immediately translate to things like food and books for students to keep them engaged is essential. And without Impact on Education, I don't know where we'd be.
Pues a mí me afectó mucho, Fabi, porque perdí hasta mi trabajo. Pasé 2 meses yo y mi esposo sin trabajo. Y prácticamente todo este tiempo que me ayudaron ustedes, o sea, fue una gran ayuda para mí, para nosotros, pues. El internet que tengo, las 5 que tenemos son del señor distrito. No es lo mismo que vayan a la escuela, porque les hacen más a los maestros que a nosotros los padres.
The only way to change societies, to change futures, and to really help is through education. We know for a fact that a hungry kid can't learn. So if we keep going the food and we help the families, that takes off a little burden of the pandemic and everything that's going on that is so impactful to all the families. And that's how Impact on Education is such an important part of this puzzle, because with their money and with their help is that we have been able to keep this going.
Well, that one gets me emotional. Thank you guys. COVID honestly just highlighted the importance of us as an organization. We are not a food bank or a food pantry, but when you close the doors to 6,500 students who receive free and reduced lunch every day, you find a way to reinvent. And thankfully, you know, our role, we are a teeny tiny organization, but we're the foundation for the school district. So what we were able to do was provide a ton of funding so that BBSD Food Services could essentially become a food pantry. So we're closing in on 1 million meals that we've been able to provide. And it's not just meals, it's actually groceries. And you saw her delivering jugs of milk. There was a point where local farmers were in trouble and Food Services was purchasing 2 tons of local produce each week from farmers who didn't have a place to sell their food when restaurants were shut down. So on top of the food response, and you saw some of those families had grocery gift cards as well. We did about $50,000 in grocery gift cards, making sure that families could get cleaning supplies and personal hygiene products and just basic essentials. We also brought 1,200 families online. So there were students who had no home internet access, and we've known about the digital divide for years, but we finally were able to get every one of those kids online. We're down to about 12 families who live up in the mountain communities near Netherlands that don't have home internet. And we're committed to keep them online this entire school year so that every single kid who needs to learn remotely will be able to still participate. We've also done, they talked about the books, we've done about 10,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. We did a distribution in the spring. We just completed a distribution in the fall. And we have $200,000, which equates to about 5,000 hours of supplemental instructional time. So for kids that are falling behind, we have plans and we have resources to make sure that they don't. They're going to get extra time with educators in small groups and one-on-one so that these, you know, short-term deficits don't become long-term. That's my big fear, right? So the upcoming school year, it is still a really hard time to plan too far ahead, but we are committed to stay the course on supporting food, on supporting internet and devices for all students, the supplemental instructional time. We're also really focused this year on student engagement. For any of you who have kids at home, this is hard. I see Becca's kiddo, or Nora. It's super hard, and we know that there are going to be a lot more students than normal who are going to want to give up. And so thankfully we have attendance advocates in BVSD, and we are supplementing what they do with additional resources. You know, a $10 Starbucks gift card goes a long way for a high school student. And if that's what they need to keep them engaged and online, they can have all the $10 Starbucks gift cards they need. So we are working with them on some creative plans to really motivate and engage older students, make sure this doesn't become a dropout crisis, but also even for young students and families when it's really hard, what are the supports that we can be providing to make sure that they continue to keep their kids learning? And we'll, again, supplemental programs, we're working on books and roving mobile classrooms and all kinds of cool ideas. So we'll follow up with ways that you can keep up with what we're doing. I want to be respectful of the time, and I want to have a couple of minutes to answer some questions. But the one thing I maybe didn't touch on, I hope you have a sense of kind of who we are and what we do. But I feel like I didn't talk about why it matters, because I know that you all have a good sense for what that is. But for me, and Fabi said it pretty well in that video, is that education should be this great equalizer. That's what public education was designed to be. And unfortunately, for all of the wonderful things we have in this community that we're fortunate enough to live in, we also have one of the largest gaps in performance on standardized tests among racial groups and among income groups of anywhere in the country. It is humiliating, it is embarrassing, it just shouldn't be the case. And so that's obviously what puts fire in my belly. That's what motivates us to work so hard, because we believe in the potential of all students. And I truly think that there's no reason why any student, no matter what their background is, can't be anything they want to be. But the truth is, right now, there are lots of things that happen in school that cost money. And if you can't participate, if you can't pay, you can't participate. And we just feel like that shouldn't be the case. And we're working really, really hard every day to bridge that gap and to make more experiences more available for more students. So that's the why it matters. And now it's my great pleasure to hand it off to my new friend Natasha, who didn't welcome me when I moved here, but I'm gonna join that club really soon, because she's fantastic, and what she is doing as a parent and a working parent and a committed nonprofit champion. I am so impressed, Natasha, and I'm really fortunate and grateful to be invited. So Natasha, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Allison. I was not expecting that kind of introduction. Thank you. And speaking as a parent of kids in BVSD, the work that you're doing, not just that, parent of kids in BVSD, but also I grew up low income in one of the most the extravagant, luxurious places in the Bay Area. So I actually know what it's like to be the kid who didn't have the money to go on the Disneyland band trip or to be a cheerleader and do all those things. So the work that you're doing really touches me greatly. Damn it, Amanda, you started the tears. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Natasha Wright, and I am the founder of Chive for Charity. And I do a bunch of other things too. I'm a Googler, and so a lot of the folks on this call know me from Google. I also wanted to quickly introduce and thank the folks that work on Chive for Charity that are on the call. So when I say your name, please give us a little wave so we know who you are, because we like Impact on Education, who, by the way, is run by 4 people. Impact on Education is the most miraculous organization, and you'll hear about Defy Colorado also later, later in the series. But the nonprofits that we work with and we get to highlight during Try for Charity are incredibly lean and are doing some tremendous work